We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for marriages. And today is going to be an interesting podcast. Rosanna, do you ever wonder if the podcast is helping anybody?
Sometimes I think it helps me. So if it helps
How
me
does
and
it how does
if
it
I
help you?
well, it helps me to think about things that people are looking for in a marriage, etc. And so how to help if it helps me, then I can help others, even conversations that we have.
Interesting. So the perspective, the perspective of time. Like this is one of the most powerful pieces, one of the most powerful pieces that I reference in my own mind. Melissa or Rosanna, any ideas on why this is so powerful?
I guess it helps you to understand personalities' responses to activities that happen, at least in the present.
How so?
Because you know their thought processes of how they relate to it.
Okay. Melissa, any ideas?
No, not really.
You remember when you were a teenage girl and I said to you, "Hey, Melissa, one of the things Dad struggles with is living in the moment. Wondered if you could teach me how to go ahead and do that."
Yeah.
Do you know why I did that?
Because you wanted somebody other than a 28-year-old to help you.
Interesting. Not saying that's not true. I mean, that's partly true. Um, I was actually trying to help you to learn how to look into the past and see it different and look into the future and see it different. And I figured if I got advice from you, that you would more likely than seek advice from me on how to go ahead and develop your skills in the future and the past.
Interesting.
Why is that interesting?
I just didn't know that. Did it work?
What do you think?
I don't know.
So I remember I was with Sarah Anderson out in Lake Tahoe, I think, in the mountains. And so you were my primary point of contact. You were my primary person I was trying to learn from. There were other people that, that had helped me too, but you were the primary one. So I wanted to understand the expressive personality, just living in the present. So the good of that is the energy, excitement, and the passion. The bad is narcissism, ADD, ADHD, never finish. The ugly is obsessive, compulsive, explosive drama. And so, um, so So I struggle because when we live in the present, the good of that is if it's good, if it's a good present, then it's great to live in the moment. Uh, my girls loved when I live in the moment. My granddaughters, man, they're all about the moment. Like everything is about the moment. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're right now. They're not thinking about a minute or two or 5 or 10 into the future. It's all about right here, right now. And in studying how my daughters and my wife deal with young girls, especially, maybe boys too, but especially young girls, if they're angry or upset or sad or crying or anything, all you do is distract them. And if you can distract them properly, then all of a sudden they'll go from, they'll go, it's like being in Florida during the rainy season. Like it'll rain and then it just stops. It's just boom. You'll be raining and it's like their emotions, their emotions are it's just crazy. And so so that, so there's good in living in the moment, but there's also, there's also a big downside. So what if the moment's not going exactly how I want it to go? What about that? Well, if you don't have the driver's natural ability to see into the future and see it being a good future, well, what if the past was bad? What if the past was bad? Sorry, that's a question. What if the past was all bad?
Then it's hard to see the future as being good too.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Melissa, what if your past is all bad? What about that?
Usually not everyone's past is all bad.
Right? And if your past is bad, what about then? Then you're a negative thinker. I was thinking of Diego Aramburu when I was going through some difficult times this week, and I'm like, my gracious, me and my life, whoa, this stuff's hard. This stuff is really, really hard. And then I thought of Diego, and I'm like, oh, man, that guy, man, he had some physical challenges like nobody's business. But he seemed to always be happy and, positive and everything else. And so the purpose of the past is twofold, and that's to go ahead and have fond memories and then to learn from the memories that aren't fond, the painful memories. It's like, okay, how do I make sure if I made a stupid choice, how do I make sure I don't make that again? How do we learn from the past? How do we take the best from the past? And so, how do we take the best from the past? How do we have a vision for the future? How do we go ahead and connect that into the present and the short term to where the things that we're doing in the present and the short term will go ahead and help us to have a better future? Because today is yesterday's future and tomorrow's past. That's profound.
Interesting.
And what's interesting about it?
Yes, I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus on women in the culture today.
Okay.
I don't know that this is very healthy for women.
Why do you think it's not healthy?
Because women think that they're the center of attention. They're the center of the universe. It's all about them. Women think that they're really super caring. They think they're really good communicators. They think that they're more sensitive. They think a lot of really amazing things about themselves.
Okay.
So it really can prevent them. Again, I'm sure there's no women that's listening to this podcast and say, That's not true. And you're getting all shaky. Yeah, I'm sure there's no women like that. You can't say that about women, like you're shaking, like, I'm sure there's no women like that. I'm sure there's no women that are like, that's not true, Mark, with 100% of the women. Did I say 100% of women? Like, if there's anybody that thought I was saying 100%, I just feel bad for you. I don't want to call you stupid. I'm just saying, that's kind of stupid. It's not good listening skills. You're looking for trauma and drama, and you're looking to be the center of attention. It's like it gets old. It just does. And so I think it's hard because there's so much focus on women. So much focus on women. I mean, I remember when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and you see the magazines and you see in men's magazines, you see really sexy, attractive women. And that makes sense to me. I understood why Noah sells magazines. Like, yep, put attractive, sexy women, in men's magazines because that's, men are interested in that. But what was puzzling to me is that in women's magazines, there were these really sexy women. And I thought, this is strange. And then as I grew older, I started to understand why. I don't know that this is maybe outside the scope of today's, but it's interesting. And so I think women have a hard time having empathy for men because today's culture is so focused on women. I mean, I'll never forget, I'm sure Melissa won't either, when we were at the Red Lobster and I was talking and I said, well, your husband wants to get out of the factory, because, he wants to get out of the factory. He doesn't like working. And Melissa's like, well, I don't think he doesn't like working at the factory. I'm like, are you kidding? You're like, yeah, I don't think he does. I was just like, are you joking? You're like, no, I don't think he doesn't like it. He's right there beside her. I said, have you ever asked him? No. And you said, Jason, do you like working at the factory? And he's like, no, not really. And then Melissa's response was so intriguing. Do you remember it, Melissa? What's that?
Yes, sir.
What was it? What was his response?
My response or his response?
His response, your response, and then his response to your response.
He did like it. He just likes certain parts of it.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? See, we're both at the same exact meeting. We're at the same exact dinner, the same exact people. Everything's the same exact. But this is what I heard. I heard something totally different. Totally different. Like I heard where he's like, no, I don't really like it. And then Melissa's response to that that I heard was, but you never complained. And then Jason's response to that was, well, what good will that do? I mean, it was classic. It's like, this is like amazing. I'm reading the book, Mistakes Were Made, but Not by Me. And they talk about how people literally shift their memory. Like, this isn't exciting. This is exciting. I'm guessing that there was that conversation, but not at that Red Lobster. It was probably later that's there. Rosanna, remember one of the most interesting movies you and I have ever watched and the difference between the two movies, what you saw and what I saw?
Yeah,
Which one?
the founder.
So, Rose, see, if you're all stunned and you're like, man, that couple, they have it going. It's like, how in the world could Rosanna know what Mark's thinking? Because they have this amazing, awesome marriage. I mean, will their kids go ahead and give them credit for it now? Will they say, that was amazing? Like, how in the world? They've watched a lot of, they have watched a lot of movies together. How did she know? And what was so intriguing about that movie, Rosanna?
That the founder guy didn't give his wife anything um didn't give his wife anything when they divorced, and that she was there to support him. At least I felt that's what she was there when he was going through all this stuff, and so I didn't see that um that was fair.
And what was my perspective?
That that she wasn't really there to support him. She just liked the fancy things that came along with, you know, her life, and she didn't like the fact that he he was taking that away from her, and he didn't she she just wanted the best of everything.
So I remember going through that movie and I was like, it's the founder found the story of Ray Kroc and McDonald's, and I just thought that is the coolest thing. And here's a guy out on the road and he's sales and he's just, man, is it hard? It's just brutal. It's just viciously brutal. He's just getting pounded the living daylights out of it. I mean, he comes home and he's got a nice house and his wife's, they're part of a country club. And so they hang out in nice places and everything like that. But boy, the amount of work that he had to do, wow, was that the risk, the hard work? I mean, just brutal to give her the life, that she wanted. And then all of a sudden, as he's building the whole McDonald's things, he goes ahead and finds another woman and drops his wife. And that hurt Rosanna. I thought it was a great movie. I did see that happen. I'm like, I don't think that's really cool, but I understand why. I do, but she did not understand why. I mean, even in her communication with this, it's like, she was very supportive. But Rosanna did say, as I saw it, she was very supportive and she didn't get anything. But she did get something, didn't she, Rosanna?
She got prestige and stuff.
No, after they divorced, he gave her something.
I think it was the house, right?
He gave her the house. So he mortgaged the house to go ahead and get the business going. And she was so angry that, and I'm not saying he did the right thing and not telling her, but he put everything on the line. And so when they divorced, she was more concerned about herself, her security, and her social status and everything else, it would seem like, than she was about him. So she didn't support his dreams. And then he's like, okay. And it's like, how does this all interconnect? I'm not entirely sure, honestly, especially since I'm not connecting the dots this year. So, how we control our minds and our thoughts, very, very important. Did actually 3 podcasts this morning for podcasts for young men. Man, those were amazing. Wow. Talked about feelings and how those feelings can be an addiction. So we talked about feelings and how they can be an addiction. And the more we get, the more we want. You give a mouse a cookie. Funny to see. I didn't know. Rosanna just told me this last week. I was like lost. I'm like, she goes like, you give a mouse a cookie. I'm like, what? I don't understand what you're talking about.
I seriously thought you were messing with me when you did that.
And then Melissa chimed in and all the women giggled. So they're making fun of me, which is fine. I get attention. So there's going to be a children's book you give a moose a cookie. So what's the difference between giving a moose a cookie and giving a mouse a cookie?
The moose is bigger.
Right? Like the moose, is the cookie really going to do that much? Like a mouse is consumptive. It more it gets it, more it wants. It's just consumptive. I just want more and more and more and more and more. Two adorable. Well, I actually have 5 adorable granddaughters, but I had 2 over last night, and it was so much fun. But I could see the consumption, like never happy, always wanting more. I want more. I want more. Like I just want more. Everything's more, which is fine. They're 2 and 3 years old. This is part of being 2 and 3 years old. Like that's what they want. So breaking them of that, of just consumption. And so moms, I think, can see, how their kids are consumptive. No amount of anything makes them happy. They're like little addiction monsters. Like they just want more of everything. I mean, I remember when I moved home, had a home office. This is before home offices were available, and then I had to set up computers. It cost like over $20,000 to move. And the reason I did is because I wanted to be more with my children. I wanted to help my wife out more in the homeschooling, and I wanted to be around more for the kids. I thought that I spent over $20,000 to do that. Didn't whine about it, didn't complain about it, no big deal. That's the difference between a moose and a mouse. Are you a moose or are you a mouse? That's a good name of a title, children's book. Are you a moose or are you a mouse? Anyways, and so remember, Donna. So when I said I'm going to move, and I almost lost the company, did I whine about that? Was it traumatic for me? Nope. Trauma. I don't have time for trauma. Trauma doesn't fix anything. It's like, I got to fix stuff. I got to fix it. I got to figure it out because nobody's going to help me. Government sure is not. My wife's not. My kids aren't. I'm going to have to figure this out on my own because the church is not. I mean, nobody's going to really help. You're alone. Totally. Probably why 3 Black women have said, Mark, you're like a Black woman. Because, I feel very much alone. It's okay. And so Donna, she was a single mom, tragic story. She had 4 kids, twin girls. If you're a woman out there and you ever think you have it bad, think of Donna. So one day she came home. So she had 4 kids. I think one was maybe 6, another 4, and then she had twin babies. She came home one day and found her husband having an affair with a much, younger woman in the house. She divorced him. And wow, she's an amazing woman. But she was, we were helping her work from home and setting up her own business and everything. And she went ahead and she laughed when she found out I was going to work from home. And she said on a call, she said, well, Mark, you're going to now see what it's like. It was funny because Rosanna immediately laughed back and said, you don't understand Mark. It's interesting, isn't it? So I'd have been in what, mid-30s-ish, maybe in late 30s. So it's interesting that Donna would say that about me, like, you're going to now understand what it's like to be a mom and working from home. And Rosanna's immediate response was, you don't understand Mark. So I go ahead and start working from home. And our youngest 2, Ben and Tim, they were like 3 and 5 years old. And they would run in to the office and they wanted to show Daddy this new thing. They wanted to show him pictures. They wanted to show him what he was doing in school. They wanted to show him all of this stuff. And they kept coming in all throughout the day. Like, it was just like, it's killing me. And after 3, you know, after, again, they're 3 and 5 years old. And after like a week of this, I'm like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta solve this. Didn't have anybody else who could solve it. They couldn't solve it. My wife couldn't solve it. Church couldn't solve it. Nobody could solve this. Educators can't solve it. I had to solve it myself. I had to be a problem solver. And so they came in, I said, hey boys, Dad's got to explain something to you. They're like, okay, Dad. I said, I love your pictures, love what you're doing, but I don't know if you guys are aware, maybe not, but based on university studies, every interruption costs 20 minutes of lost productivity. You guys are interrupting me a lot during the day. I can't get work done. They're both looking at me like deer in headlights. Like, we don't have no idea what they're 3. They're 5 years old. They don't know. They don't know. I said, let me explain this to you. Now that I'm working from home, I get to take an hour off every day for lunch. I come down and the first 20 minutes, so I have 3 parts to my lunch. So they're 3, you know, they're 5. They can understand 3 parts. So the first part of lunch is I come down and I wrestle with you for 20 minutes. Then I have lunch. And then what does Dad do after lunch? And they're like, wrestle with us. Yeah. Because little boys just love to wrestle with their dads. That's what they do. I didn't read it in a book. Just knew it. Just like, okay, I'm home. So I'm going to work from home. Yeah, it's going to be some challenges, but I'll figure it out. And so I said, now, if you guys interrupt me once, then I can't take a 60-minute lunch. Again, 3 and 5 years old. So you're going to have to give up wrestling once. If you interrupt me twice, then I can't eat. So I'm trying to teach him empathy. Do you guys like to eat? Dad doesn't need to, and apple's fine. But so if you interrupt me twice, then it's going to go ahead and I can't go ahead and have, I can't go ahead and have lunch. And if you interrupt me 3 times, then, no wrestling during the day. I still wrestle at night, but no wrestling during the day. They're like, okay, Dad, that makes sense. And it fixed the situation. And it fixed it, until they became teenagers. And then they were loud and ruckus again like that. Like, it's just, so I don't know how I knew this stuff. I'm a problem solver. Here's a problem. This is what I need to do. When I work at it and it doesn't work, not a problem. I'll just keep changing it over and over again and again until it does. I mean, I'll just keep doing it. When I was watching my 2 granddaughters who were, 2 and 3 last night, I thought, I wish there was a camera. Next time they do it, I think I'm going to have like a Zoom call. It'll be like a podcast or something, because it was so much fun. Grandpa had fun. I think Grandpa had more fun than they did. But it was also productive. But, they fight, because that's what 2 and 3-year-old sisters do. I get it. Grandpa, just like, this is how you handle it. And I thought, like, who taught me this stuff? I don't know. How did I know? I don't know that either. But it's like, I think I could probably help some men, some dads understand some things. Anything else, Melissa, that you would like to accomplish today?
No, I'm good.
Melissa or Rosanna, anything you'd like to accomplish?
I think I'm good.
So if you're listening to the podcast and you think you're a caring person, let me repeat that again. You're listening to the podcast and you think you're a caring person. Are you one of those caring people that talk cares? Like I talk a lot about how much I care. Or are you a caring person that actually does something? Like, is there a struggling mom out there, single mom? Is there a mom that's hurting? Would she benefit from this? Is there a dad who's struggling? Is there a marriage who's struggling? Like, do you care about anybody other than yourself? Or are you so caught up in yourself that you can't see how good we have it? I don't know. If you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300 outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.